You're listening to Manx Radio, and I'm Judith Lay, welcoming you to the podcast of the Manx Sky at Night with Howard Parkin.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Well, that is the familiar music that says Howard Parkin is in the studio. Faster my Howard, and welcome. I think you're super welcome this time because, my goodness, we have got a lot to talk about, haven't we?
As ever. Faster my Jude, it's great to be here again.
Well, I know that we're going to talk a lot about the Artemis II expedition, but the thing that I thought that was brilliant about it was that people who would previously have said they were quite sort of neutral about things going on in space and whatever, got absolutely hooked.
Oh, very much so. The amount of people that said to me, I bet I'm watching it. I was watching it avidly the whole way through. The whole mission was just
Did you ever move? Did you ever move away from having a screen in front of you, Howard, the whole time?
Pretty well not. I had NASA TV on pretty well all the time, and wake up first thing in the morning and get the news and see what they're up to and where they were going and where things were. And weren't they just a great crew? I mean, they were absolutely fantastic. They were just wonderful people.
You really did get the sense of their personality.
You did. You really did. I mean, the four of them were just... They seemed... I mean, there's a lovely quote the other day. I know we'll talk about this later. There's a lovely quote the other day. They left as friends, but now they're best friends because they just got on so well. It was obvious they did because they were just so happy and cheerful. And wow, what an amazing event.
Well, the thing that I had no idea that it could be so good was the fact that the pictures were so clear. Yeah. And the sound was so good. So when they spoke, it didn't sound like it sounded like they were in the next room.
It did. I mean, compare that to the old Apollo missions all those years ago, 50 odd years ago, and the coverage and the videos and the as you say, the quality of the sound was just, the whole thing was just breathtaking. And it all went like clockwork. That was what's great about it.
It certainly seemed to. If there was anything that was a deviation from the plan, it certainly didn't show in the one. But I tell you what, it did make me think quite a few times whilst I was watching the coverage. It made me have even more respect for that mission 50 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, because they were going with, in comparison to this mission, the minimum of technology, and they landed on the moon.
They did. When you think about it, 50 odd years ago, how they did it and the technology. I mean, everyone said, why is it taking so long? Well, a lot of that is budget and politics. But this one, I mean, the spacecraft was more spacious. I mean, what really got me, Judith, at the end was when they landed, and I watched them landing, and then 4 frogmen got in with the 4 of them. They had 1 each to check they were okay. So the spacecraft, which held 4, had 8 when they were bobbing around on the Pacific Ocean off San Diego.
Yeah. I suppose that was okay for a short time. But if we've got a smartphone, we've got probably more processing power than they had 50 years ago.
Definitely.
And yet they did. And that's, I just think it put it into context, the bravery and the skill to do that with minimal technology.
I think as well, with other events going on in the world at the moment, it was a great opportunity for us to think about something entirely different, where the whole of humanity came together. And I know other people may not feel the same way, but it really was when they showed us the pictures of the Earth and they made these comments about we love you from the moon and all this, it wasn't corny. It was fantastic. It was just mind-blowing.
There was a definite sense that they were completely overawed by what they saw.
Oh, they were most certainly.
And they conveyed that so naturally, and I think we can take a lot from that, can't we?
Oh, I think so. And I just wish we could learn from it more and perhaps live better together on Earth. But that's a bit of a dream.
Keep that sense of awe and wonder.
Definitely.
Well, Howard, what are we going to wonder about in the Manx skies over these next weeks?
We've had some wonderful weather the last few days. I mean, the last week has been spectacular. And the sunset has been spectacular. And I'm sure many people have seen that very bright object in the night sky just after sunset, which is, of course, the planet Venus. And not far from Venus, we've got the planet Jupiter. And what is fascinating, at this time next month, we'll be talking about the fact that Jupiter and Venus are actually going to go through what we call a conjunction, a very close conjunction. The two of them are going to be very close to each other, about the width of a full moon apart from each other. And what, if anyone is interested in doing it, I'd like you to do, is just go outside on a clear night any time now, between now and, well, literally the middle of June, and just look up at the western horizon and look for the very bright, distinct object of the planet Venus. Once you've found Venus, look up to the upper left of it and you'll see another bright star. This, of course, isn't a star, it's the planet Jupiter. And what's going to happen, Venus is getting higher and higher in the sky as it comes round from the back of the sun, and is rising higher into our skies. But at the same time, the Earth is going around the sun, and the planet Jupiter isn't moving against the background stars so much, but it is moving towards the horizon. So what you've got this effect of Venus and Jupiter closing in on each other. So a bit of fun for anyone out there, if you want to do it. Go outside with a ruler, a tape measure or a ruler. Do it in the next few days if we get a clear night, and just measure at arm's length how far Jupiter and Saturn are apart from each other. Then go and do it again in 2 or 3 nights' time, and you'll notice quite clearly that Venus and Jupiter are drawing closer and closer together. And by the time we get to the end of May, they really will be very, very spectacularly close to each other. The sky will be lightening as we get towards Midsummer's Day in the middle of June. You will find, of course, that the sky is lightening, but Venus is so very, very bright and will continue to rise up and set well after the sun has gone down. It'll be quite easy to spot, and people are going to be asking, what are those two objects in the sky at the moment? And those, of course, are the two planets Venus and the planet Jupiter. And we've got the full moon, of course. We've got a moon. It's going to be quite actually a full moon this Friday on the 1st of May. And the full moon is obviously the other side of the sky. It's in the eastern part of the sky. But then in 2 weeks' time, the new moon will come round again on the 16th of May, and we'll have the spectacular sight of Venus and Jupiter being literally visited by the crescent moon each night as we go through. And it is really going to be quite spectacular. I've seen quite a few planetary conjunctions over the years with my astronomical interest, but this one, of the two, possibly, well, they are always the brightest two planets we ever get in the sky. Mars can be bright, but Jupiter consistently is always brighter. But the idea is it will be quite spectacular. And just like we were talking a moment ago, me and Judith, about the Artemis mission, this is something else that will bring people home and make them realise our place in the universe and our place on the Earth going round the sun. And these two very bright objects will be quite awe-inspiring, really, and I look forward to people looking at them. So remember, get your ruler out and measure how far they are apart, and then do the same thing again in the next 2 or 3 nights, and just keep doing that, and eventually you'll find they're about 1/4 of an inch apart from each other on the 9th of June next year. And obviously we'll talk about that when we do the night sky from the Isle of Man in June, or at the end of May, I should say.
So you're bearing it bravely, the fact that we're getting a lot of lovely light at night. Howard,
Yeah.
you're coping with it.
Well, we are, because Venus and Jupiter are just completely dominating the night sky at the moment, and they're just so spectacular. And my next door neighbour actually said to me, "What's that bright star?" And I didn't know it was Venus. I thought it was the star Sirius, which is in the same area. And he said, no, it's much brighter than normal. I thought it must be Venus. And he'd actually seen it before me, because I hadn't had a chance to see it at that point. I haven't got a very good western horizon. I've got a very good southern horizon from my house, but you can just see it peeping out. Last night, actually, we were at the Gaiety. Went to the Gaiety Theatre last night, and as we came home, Venus was just peeping up above the houses in my road, and Jupiter, as I say, was about 14 inches away on my ruler. So new astronomical technique, measuring with a ruler held at arm's length. Why not, if it does the job, and you can use it to measure, as I say, the closing distance between them.
It doesn't matter what you use. And last weekend, was it last Saturday night, that there was an aurora?
Yes, I believe so. I didn't see it myself, but there was a recent aurora.
I didn't.
No.
I'm just trying to think, because a gentleman posted up on our page some beautiful photographs. I'm just trying to think where they were taken. Would it have been the West Coast?
It would probably almost certainly be the west coast of the island.
Yeah,
I mean,
lovely
it was seen spectacularly in the United States, because we had the Lyrid meteor shower beginning of this week. last week, and someone in the United States got some wonderful pictures of Lyrid meteor showers and the aurora. And the aurora does peak at different parts of the world. I mean, obviously the north or the southern hemisphere, but there's like places where you see it more spectacularly on this occasion in North America than we did see it in Europe. But the aurora is still there, and there's still lots of activity. I read something only the other day about it that actually said now we are in the auroral peak of this particular solar cycle. Well, I thought the peak was last April, May last year, but we're still saying that it's still at the peak time. I'm always looking out for a bit of aurora.
Do you think people have moved the peak because it's keeping on going on, possibly?
Well, the whole thing about this particular peak was it was much, much higher than it was meant to be. And they haven't pinpointed when it was actually at its maximum activity. And there's some speculation that it's still heading towards it. But I don't think that's the case. I think we have reached the peak now. But when you still will get good auroras for the next year or so as it drops down to the 11-year cycle, and we'll pick back up again in 2037. I think it'll be the next one.
But isn't it nice that we don't know absolutely everything and we've still be open to surprises?
Oh, absolutely. That's what the beauty of it is, and that's what I love about astronomy, because there's so many things to see and look at in the night sky. I mean, I know exactly what Jupiter and Venus are doing together at the moment, but most people don't because they're not interested in it. So when they do see it, they're saying to me, hey, what's going on in the sky? What's that bright object? What is it? And
but isn't it great that people are asking instead of just saying or just not paying particular attention, that they're asking? People want to know, and that's a
right.
win. That's a win, isn't it?
And that's what we're doing here. I mean, hopefully people are interested, and people will have a look at it and hopefully come back to us and say how much they've spotted the fact that they got closer and closer together. We've also got, just must finish on that one, because if you wait till the 20th of May, Mercury, which is very difficult to spot. So you've got Jupiter and Venus closing in on each other. You've also got Mercury, which will be roughly the same distance away as Jupiter is from Venus in the night sky in the 20th of May for about a week. And Mercury is very difficult to spot because obviously it only appears in the sky as very, very light, so you need a pair of binoculars. But if you find Jupiter and Venus around the 20th of May or thereafter for a few days, go the same distance away from Venus down towards the sun, the horizon, you might find the planet Mercury. But please, never look for it when the sun's in the sky. I don't want anyone damaging their eyes looking at the sun. You've got to wait till the sun's gone down before you can find Mercury.
The effect of the moon being visible in the daytime sky still fascinates me.
Yes, it does everybody.
It does. It just looks. It's lovely because you only sort of see half of it, so it looks very ethereal and beautiful. But it just seems really strange to see it at 3:00 in the afternoon.
I often get asked that by children. Children ask me that. Well, how come we can see the moon's out at night time, but sometimes we can see it during the day? And it's just orbital mechanics. Funny you should say it, because I was watching the football match the other day. I'm an Everton fan for my sins, and the commentary came from West Ham on Saturday. And the actual commentator actually said, and up in the sky there, we can see the moon shining down on us. And I'm thinking, hang on, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. It's just like you. And even though I know what causes it, it was interesting that they would make comment of that, because obviously it was quite prominent on such a lovely blue skies.
Yeah, indeed. And when I was looking at it, it was one of the many days that we've had recently with lovely blue skies. So what else? What else, Howard?
Well, the sad thing is, and I know you always say about me being upset about the light skies. Well, we are going to hit the moment on the 16th of May when we don't get beyond astronomical twilight anymore, when the sun is not any more than 18 degrees below the horizon. It means basically it's going to go dark about 10 o'clock and start getting light again about 4 o'clock. And it doesn't get officially what we call into proper hours of darkness. It only goes into what we call astronomical twilight. And I'm afraid that's going to go on now from the 16th of May right through to the beginning of August. So the whole of May, well, most of May, all of June, all of July, and a little bit of August. I think August the 1st is actually the day we actually get back to astronomical twilight. But that, of course, gives us a chance to see these wonderful things I love talking about every year, noctilucent clouds. These night shining, which is what noctilucent means, these clouds very high up, illuminated by the setting sun and seen as an eerie, silvery, bluey colour in the sky over Peel or over the sunset, or indeed over sunrise. You get them in the mornings as well. And I haven't heard of any being seen yet, but they will be coming round, and we'll be looking for them in June, July, and no doubt reporting them, and hopefully get some pictures this time as well.
The truth is that every season, whether it's an astronomical season or whatever it is, every season has got its benefits, hasn't it?
Oh, yes, without a doubt. I mean, it's not just the weather. We all like the weather, but There's lots of people love the spring, they love the autumn, and even the cold nights of winter. I mean, we astronomers love the winter because we get more chances of doing stargazing. But wouldn't it be boring if the Earth was stood straight upright and we had no seasons? What would that do for life on Earth? That's a concept or a subject that don't know enough about. But if we didn't have seasons, then life on Earth would be totally different.
I think we've got enough with trying to cope with it as it is without doing a what if.
I think so. I think that might be very wise, Judith.
But what if we had a music break now, shall we?
That sounds a great idea.
Well, it's got to be something involving the moon, hasn't it?
Of course.
This is the great Julie London mixed with Gregory Porter.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me know what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Oh, fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.
In other words, hold my hand.
Hold my hand.
In other words,
darling, kiss me. Oh,
fill my heart with song
and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words,
please be true.
Please be true.
In other words, I love you.
Oh, I love you. And oh, I love you.
Gregory Porter with Julie London and Fly Me to the Moon. And you are listening to the April edition of the Manx Sky at Night with Howard Parkin. We've been getting some ideas from Howard about what we might see in the Manx skies in the coming weeks, weather permitting. The second half of the programme is usually given over to space news, where we did touch on the huge story of the Artemis II, an entire success and everybody safe. But let's get a bit personal on this one, because somebody not a million miles from me got an email from space, didn't they?
They did indeed, Judith. I still am astounded when I think about it. I must tell you the background to the story. What happened is I met Victor Glover. Victor Glover was on the Viking Orion, the cruise ship, which people think is named after the Orion constellation. It was named after the Orion spacecraft, which of course was in the process of being built and designed. And even Viking don't understand that connection. But the Viking Orion, for its launch, they invited lots of people from NASA and retired astronauts and future astronauts on board. And one of them was Victor Glover. And I remember chatting to Victor, and he was a lovely bloke. He's come across, I mean, now everyone knows him as a nice bloke, but I was privileged to meet him. And he hadn't flown in space at that time, and everyone was teasing him, oh, you're not a proper astronaut yet, you haven't been up. And I actually said to him, any idea when you're going to get launched into space? I think I did the story a few weeks ago. And he said, oh, I can't tell you yet, but watch the news on the 2nd of August. And he was named to be the second crew in a Dragon spacecraft going up to the International Space Station. So we exchanged email addresses and emails, and I followed his trip on the Dragon and all the rest. And he's still, he has a blog. He sends a blog out every so often, especially when he was named for the Artemis II mission. And he was sending out this blog. Now, I imagine this blog he sends out to, I'm guessing, thousands of people. I'm sure there are thousands and thousands of people who get the blog from him. And he was telling us that when the launch was going to be delayed or when the launch was planned. And all the way through, right up to the day of the launch, we got a blog from him to say, I'm saying me, everybody got this blog. And he sent this blog out and he said, we're on our way. And he sent one email, it went to everybody, wonderful expression, from the gravity flats between the Earth and the Moon. So he sent this and he said, we've launched, it was fantastic, and what we're seeing in space is absolutely fantastic. And I didn't think anything of it. I just sent him a reply. Victor, fantastic job you and the crew are doing up there. You've seen some marvellous sights. Come back safely and I look forward to hearing all about it. I did not expect a reply, but I got a personal reply to me. Imagine when I opened my inbox to Howard Parkin at my Manx address, and it was from Victor. It was quite short, and it basically says, I've got a copy of it here. Thanks for your kind and thoughtful words, Howard. I have no words to describe. This is unreal. We're now earthward bound. Best wishes, Victor. So he took the time to actually send me a personal email. I fell off my chair and all the other adjectives. It was just fantastic. And it just sums up the guy. I've since replied to him again, and I've not heard from him this time, but I imagine he's been inundated. But I think I will in due course, because he's just that sort of bloke. And it just was astounding to think that he took the time. Okay, probably dictated it, I don't know, it doesn't matter, but he just took the time to reply to me. And how many others did he get replied to as well? And it was just the whole thing was just, it brought me back. I wasn't even married. I've been married 51 years to Sandra. And when they last went to the moon, we weren't married. And it's just 1972 was the last trip to the moon. And now here we are doing it again. And this time, as you said earlier, Judith, the pictures were spectacular, the commentaries. And what a moment when they actually named the crater after Reed Wiseman's wife. And that was so touching, and that was so human. And I believe, not from anything I've heard personally, but I believe that was not rehearsed. That was just something they didn't tell him. The three of them got together and said, when we find a nice crater on the far side of the moon, let's suggest that it's called Carol, after Carol Wiseman, Reed Wiseman's wife. And they were obviously all hugging together, and they're all choked up, and you could tell it. And I thought, what a marvellous human interest story. And as I say, when you can think what's going on in the world at the moment with all the conflict and problems and everything else, it really brought us all together for a few short days. And I think so many people watched and astounded at what was an amazing mission.
Yeah, I think they could have been overawed by the technology that had got them there, or by their own ability, because they've been training for years for this, years to work as a team and to master all the things that they would perhaps need to fix if something went wrong. But it seemed like they put all of that aside. They were just overawed by the intimacy of the whole thing, of seeing, as they said, the world the Earth from a different perspective, and the vastness of space. And
that's right. And what they did have, unlike the Apollo capsules, which had very small windows, and they were always going around the back of the moon, the far side of the moon, when it wasn't in sunlight, because they were landing on the moon. Therefore, they wanted the moon to be fully illuminated when they landed. So all the Apollo astronauts, including Apollo 13, went round the back of the moon when it was not illuminated at all. So that's why, and they didn't explain that very well, but that's why the astronauts on the Artemis II mission saw the far side of the moon with human eyes for the very first time. And again, the descriptions they gave us, the craters and everything else, and the photographs they've given us. And of course, the other thing was we didn't have a full Earth this time. We had a partial Earth, because the shadow was on the moon and on the Earth the same. And so we had this beautiful crescent Earth, or I suppose you call it not quite a half Earth. It was between a crescent and a half. And then again, they came back in. They had the live cameras on board the spacecraft. And the one picture that got me, which me being a bit of a geek about this, was when they actually separated the Artemis capsule from the service module, and you saw it pulling away. And you thought, wow, that was just incredible. And then, of course, the landing was spectacular. We were all worried about the landing because there'd been all sorts of stories, and I think the media hyped it up a bit, but it was like clockwork. But I remember sitting there watching that coming in, and when they found the spacecraft with the camera very early on when it came into re-entry, and then the chutes popped, and then the drogue chutes, and then the big chutes, and then they came back down. It was just I didn't go to bed that night, and when I did go to bed, I couldn't sleep. It was just such an amazing mission.
Yeah, I mean, you say there, Howard, that the media hyped it up, and maybe they did, but I think there is a grave danger also that if you don't mention the potential danger points, you make it sound like this is a walk in the park.
Which is what happened to Apollo. After the Apollo 11, 12, 13 missions, they lost interest and they stopped doing it. It was a political statement. That's why they stopped going. That's a question I've been asked so many times. Why haven't we been back? Because there was no political will to do so. Now we've got the will to go there and to build a base and go on from there. And that's what Artemis II was all about. And Artemis III, of course, now will be another mission which will be launched next year. And they'll go into Earth orbit and test the lunar lander, which they're building. There's 2 of them being built at the moment, one by SpaceX, one by Blue Origins. And they'll test them, and then they're going to go back to the moon, hopefully in 2028, and land there again. And I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I just hope they don't make too much of a mess up there.
I hope so.
I hope so.
Plenty of chances to do that down here, haven't we?
Yes. But with the Artemis II and so many layers to it, we could get completely sidetracked. But there are other things happening, aren't there?
Oh, yes. I mean, there's been so much news recently. One story that's linked to this, of course, I just mentioned the lunar lander. One of those potential landers is going to be launched by SpaceX with their Starship. And they're gearing up to launch Starship 12, which is the brand new 3rd generation Starship. And that mission has been put back quite a few times, which is one of the problems of the lander, because until they get Starship working properly, the SpaceX lander can't be tested. Well, they're going to go ahead, hopefully in mid-May, with the new Starship 12, and that'll be well worth looking out for, and we'll be looking for that on the news. But the other great thing is we've now got the James Webb Telescope up there, and we've got the Hubble Space Telescope working alongside it. We've got the new Nancy Grace Roman Telescope, which has just been unveiled to the press in Goddard Space Flight Center in America, and that's going to be launching very soon indeed, probably this autumn. And that's almost the same size as the Hubble Space Telescope, and that's going to be used for all sorts of observations. And there's been a real plethora of information recently about exoplanets. They've been discovering all sorts of things about planets around other stars. And they found a family of planets where they orbit in what we call a synchronous orbit. So one side of the planet faces the star permanently, the other side is in permanent shadow. We have a similar thing with Mercury, but it's sun synchronous 2 out of every 3 orbits or something. But these planets they've discovered around these distant stars are completely sun locked to the range of the star, and they've discovered methane, and they've discovered water molecules and all sorts of stuff, and it's just so exciting, and all this stuff is going on, and I just can't keep pace with it all. There's so much going on.
I think you do very well, Howard. You do keep because there is so much happening, and there are so many unexpected discoveries made. I think that's another thing that's quite, it's when the discoveries are unexpected. Now, we are I can see that you're keeping a close eye on the time. So in the minute that remains us, what's the biggest story that you want, or the biggest bit of news, or something to look out for?
To look out for, it's got to be the conjunction between Jupiter and Venus. That story is really spectacular. The other thing that will be coming up very soon is NASA will be announcing their plans for the Artemis III and the Artemis IV missions. They're not going to name the crews for quite some time, but I'm looking forward and hopefully finding out. I don't think Victor will get another seat because he'll have to wait now for another go, but I'm quite confident he'll walk on the moon in the not too distant future along with the others. And I just keep looking at the news and making sure everything's going on. But do look out for that planetary conjunction, listeners. Get your ruler out, measure it, and then go back a few days later. Do it with your kids if you've got kids or grandkids, and then tell them, and they'll, how did you know that, Granddad, or Dad, how did you know so? Well, turn it into a bit of fun as well, because that's what it's all about. Learning is all about fun.
You got hooked on this when you were young.
Exactly. Yuri Gagarin, 12th of April, 1961, when I was 7.
So it can happen to other 7-year-olds, can't it?
I'm still a 7-year-old at heart when it comes to space.
Of course you are. Howard, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We look forward to hearing from you in a month's time on the final Sunday in the month of May. Fastamai, Howard Parkin.
Fastamai, Judith.
The Nation Station.